live.
So, Mr. Chair, you can request a roll call.
Good evening. Robin, would you please give us a roll call?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. Member Foster.
Here.
Member Sineni. Member Loja. Acting Chair Ritter.
Here.
Member Hafner.
And mute here.
Alternate Welker. Alternate Bartlesmeyer.
Here.
Alternate Marion.
Here.
Council Member Liaison Clark.
Here.
And our new Planning and Zoning Commission Liaison Cone.
Here.
All right, we have quorum.
Mr. Chair, the next item is the approval of the minutes from the September 9th, 2021 meeting.
I have reviewed those minutes and I didn't have any problem with them. Is there anybody who would like to make a motion to accept those minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you both.
Mr. Chair, all in favor, we can do this by a voice vote.
Great. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I hear no nays.
Abstain.
Fair enough.
Mr. Chair, the next item on the agenda is to review the agenda items for tonight, of which there are two.
As I recall, the first is a reconsideration of the fencing at the vet center. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm not exactly sure how to start this one. We had this item on the agenda last month, and I was told that there was additional information which we should have considered that we were not availed to, including public opinion. Is there anything you would like to present for us, Joe?
Well, Mr. Chair, just so we have it recorded and on record, typically we asked if there are any public comments before we start the action items on the agenda. There is only one attendee, that's Dr. Robson from Fox Creek Veterinary Clinic, and I assume he'll be allowed to speak during the discussion. And there are no other attendees, as well as we did not, unless Ms. Keefe has something, receive any written comments for distribution to the board for tonight's meeting.
I have not.
Then, Mr. Chair, as you've mentioned, the first item on tonight's agenda is a request for the reconsideration of the vote relative to the fencing that has been installed at Fox Creek Veterinary Clinic at the intersection of Fox Creek Road and Route 100. Before the board could have a discussion again, a vote to reconsider must be made. And the motion must come from someone that voted in favor, that was in the majority, or in this case, in favor of approving the fence. So that could be Mr. Ritter, Ms. Foster, Ms. Bartlesmeyer, Mr. Welker, and Ms. Marion. So any of you, if you'd like to reconsider the matter, I would respectfully request a motion for reconsideration, then a second, and then a voice vote, and then we can kind of dive into the matter in more detail. Thank you.
Can I ask something first, Mr. Vonich?
Certainly, sir.
Is there any ordinance or governance that defines the fencing in that area?
there is a site-specific ordinance that specified that fencing should complement the building and the building materials, obviously. And so there is a regulation in this particular case that speaks to the fencing in conjunction with the rest of the built environment. However, it defers to the Architectural Review Board to make that determination. There is no specific vinyl versus wood versus wrought iron versus black, white. It doesn't go into that level of detail. It just defers to the board and its members for consideration.
Okay. Is there anybody who wishes to make that motion?
And for the reconsideration, Mr. Ritter, Ms. Foster, Mr. Welker, Mr. Bartlesmeyer, or Ms. Marion.
I do not consider to make any motion for this issue. I went out and looked at the fence.
Mr. Ritter,
Yes,
if we were to have a discussion, we need the motion for reconsideration. It's just.
then I won't make it.
I believe Mr. Welker raised his hand. I don't know if he's able to unmute himself. If you bear with him, I just sent him a message.
You waved off.
He's unmuted now, or at least it doesn't look like he's muted.
The motion is just to discuss. Is that basically what we're doing?
Yes, the reconsideration would just allow to have a discussion. And if at the end of the discussion, there's a desire to basically change, that would require a motion and second and vote. If there's a desire not to change, there would be no action.
I'll make a motion to open this up to discussion.
Is there a second to that motion? Mr. Walker's got his hand up.
Mr. Chair, we can do this by voice vote unless it's hard to differentiate, and then we could go to a roll call.
A voice vote would be fine.
Yes, unless it's hard to differentiate, and then we'll ask for a roll call. But if it's obviously, if we can make a determination that there's a majority, we'll be glad to proceed forward then. Thank you.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And those abstained? Did you get all that, Robin? Does the motion carry?
Yes, sir. We can go ahead and have the conversation.
Good. Was there something that we should have considered that we did not, Mr. Vonich?
Well, after the discussion was held in September and the question arose about the information provided, I did note that the department prepared a violation or a warning notice to Dr. Robson regarding the lattice work on the existing fence. That was not part of your packet. That violation letter or warning notice was provided to you for tonight's meeting. And so, as you can see, it discusses the context of the concern and also the regulation that allows the Architectural Review Board to consider it as part of any agenda at their meeting. Also, there is the actual site-specific ordinance, and I do not believe that was provided to you for the September meeting. There's a whole lot of regulations associated with that site-specific ordinance, but that's the origin of the one that's referenced in the warning notice violation letter.
And what does the violation notice indicate?
Again, the installation of the lattice work was done without the approval of the Architectural Review Board. Either remove the lattice work and restore the fence to its original approved condition, or come to the Architectural Review Board, present the matter to the members and discuss it and receive direction from the board members in terms of a vote. Or if there is a way to basically achieve the goal Dr. Robson wants, which is securing the area for small pets that is invisible, then that would be another alternative. Because again, if you can't see it, the board doesn't need to act on it.
Okay. Does Dr. Robson wish to speak at this point?
I'm going to go ahead and promote him to panelist, and if he doesn't, we'll just ask him to be an attendee. I believe, Mr. Chair, Ms. Clark had a comment.
Ms. Clark?
I had a few points, and I wanted to thank Mr. Vunich so much for providing that further information that helps clarify a lot of things.
Yes.
The second point is that if I understand it correctly from reading this ordinance 727, it requires approval of any fence changes before they're made. So that stuck in my head when I read that, as well as, and that was under the miscellaneous section V. And then there was a miscellaneous section, I think, I don't have it written down which one it was, but it prohibits any dog runs or outdoor kennel areas within the boundaries of the CUP. So I looked up a legal definition of dog runs because I didn't know exactly what that would mean. And what I found was it's an enclosed area of space where a dog can stay without a leash, a gated and locked area. Some runs are strictly for exercise. So it sounded like what he has there. And, you know, if that's needed, I'm sure that, you know, we could consider that as maybe a place for a change to make that so that the dogs can run out there. But as far as the fence goes, it's very visible, as Mr. Vunich said, from the road, and it is a distraction from the natural environment as you drive by. If this is allowed, as it kind of sets a precedent of what we can do out there. So if we allow it once to have a fence that has that much white background going on, or anything that's other than what was in the original agreement, I would say, you know, then we'll have to let everybody do it. So if a lot of people did that out there, it's really going to change what our non-urban wildwood looks like. But you know, maybe if we had that request from the beginning, and still maybe we can do it, that we find a more natural blending material into the background, so that this lattice isn't so visible. The lattice to me, and I got to tell you, back when I was a single mom with little kids and had no money, I used to take lattice and cover things up around my home. And so in my head, you know, this is just a personal observation, but in my head, lattice makes things look cheap. So, and maybe that isn't what everybody else thinks of, but the lattice to me just makes it look lower, not as upmarket. Maybe that's a better word. But of course, I have no vote in this as a council liaison, but I have reviewed all the documents that Mr. Vinich sent out. And if I did vote, I would vote for it to be removed and us to relook at maybe something that would be more acceptable for the surroundings. And I will leave it to you. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen, you had your hand up.
Yes, I did. I wasn't a member of ARB at the last meeting. However, I was present due to one of our projects. And correct me if I'm wrong, was there not a recommendation for landscaping to go along that fence?
Yes, as I recall, there was.
Okay, so I think that kind of solves the problem that Ms. Clark is referencing.
Ms. McCowen?
Yes?
Thank you. I
Well-
just wanted to say that I'm not bothered by the aesthetic of the fence. I'm not bothered by the lattice. I do think it actually blends in quite well. The cross pattern that's in the lattice is very similar to the doors that are in the building or the barn that's in behind it. I think that Mr. Robson acted in good faith. He was not aware that he would have to apply for an additional permit or any approvals, as he spoke to at the last meeting. He was very gracious and was agreeing to do the landscaping and anything that needed to occur. I don't think that the lattice diminishes the appearance of the building. I do not find a distraction. I've driven by multiple times since just to look at it. I think it was a wonderful addition. It allows him to do what he needs to do with the animals, keeps the animals safe away from the road. So I just wanted to mention that. And again, the landscaping was addressed at the last meeting. We sort of have gone all over this before, so I'm fine with it.
Thank you. Ms. Clark?
Just in response to the landscaping, when I had brought that up last time about, the trees, maybe it made it look a little bit less, but at the time I thought there was nothing else we could do. And, no matter how much landscaping you put there, it's going to be a while before it is covered. But so I would say that the landscaping was just because we didn't have all the information. And now that after Mr. Vunich's letter he provided for us, I think he has really opened our eyes to what was told to, they were alerted as to that this was possibly a problem before the last meeting.
Mr. Welker, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I've had a little audio problem, so I'm doing this by my phone. I agree with much of what Councilperson Clark had to say, and especially with the review of the documents that we just had, recently presented to us. And I drove back by the site today, and yeah, I think there's a better alternative to for providing the function that the applicant is looking for without using the lattice. Maybe even just wire fencing would be less of a visual detraction from the site, because I think it's an attractive site. I think the lattice detracts from it. So, I don't really support moving forward with the approving the fence as it is.
Okay, who else? Oh, Ms. Marion? Ms. Marion?
Thanks. I had a quick question. Regarding the setting of a precedent, Joe, could you remind us, was there actually a fence guidelines for the remainder of that area? I thought I remembered you saying it would have been mostly left up to HOAs in Wildwood.
That's correct, ma'am. The city does not have a set of stringent requirements for fencing. In fact, our regulations are if it's 6 feet or less in height, we really don't do anything with it unless it's governed by, in this case, a site-specific ordinance. But there are no regulations for any properties in Ward 6, Ward 1, or others unless, again, they're site-specific and in town center.
I mean, in that case, I think there's very low risk of setting a precedent, given that there are no guidelines in place. And the second point I would make is that a wire fence is not going to do much to discourage a dog unless it's chain link. So I don't think chain link is probably a look that people are going for. So if we want to say to him, you can't keep dogs out there, that's something different, but we have to keep the safety of the animals in mind as well.
Okay. Personally, I'd like to say that I went out and looked at that a couple of times over the past month. It's an appropriate material. It's a fencing material. It's not like he took some lattice and just handcrafted this. It'll weather as well as the rest of the fence. I think the facility as a whole is one of the nicest looking facilities west of Taylor Road on Manchester. I, as an architect, would have suggested the same material. The fact that he didn't come and get approval for that before he erected that can be a mistake or attributed to a number of things. I will vote to support the fence as it is. If he has been nice enough to come back in here and revisit this after he has received approval from the board, I think that the community needs to be able to stand on what the board offers them the first time around. And if we have not considered popular opinion or whatever else gets shoveled into the discussion, at the first opportunity, I don't think we deserve a second bite on the apple. And if there is anybody else who'd like to speak on the topic at this point, we can.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Bartles.
Alex?
I'm actually good. My question got answered.
Okay. Dr. Robson, would you like to say anything?
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you for having me again. Definitely value all of your opinions. I hope it comes across. Just a couple things. Just want to communicate to you guys. One, I really do care. I care what you guys, what your opinion is. I really value that, to be totally honest. I love the city. I love ordinances because it keeps everything pretty, and so I'm happy to come back, and I'm happy to talk to you guys. Definitely want to go through the process of this. So thanks for having me back. Couple things. One, I would not have done the fencing if I knew that was a violation of the conditional use permit that we originally agreed upon. It's been many years ago since we did that conditional use permit. I really did not know that Wildwood, that was part of the original conditional use permit. I would have gone through ARB if I knew that. So I know that ignorance is not always a good excuse, but I just didn't know that. So I didn't want you guys to think that we were trying to sneak that under the city's nose and just do that. The intent was to protect the animals. We did want to come up with a fencing that was secure, and then also we're right next to Highway 100, so you can imagine if we had a dog loose on 100, that would be not okay. That could cause a wreck and other kinds of things. So we need something that's secure, that is going to be good for the safety of the public as well. So there's a couple different things there that we did consider. However, I will say I really stand by what you guys say. I mean, if you guys think I should change it, I would be happy to do that. I want to be a good neighbor. I want to be in good standing with the city. I value I think it's great that we have an architecture review board, to be honest. I mean, my father was an architect and I really value you guys. And, I think it's great that you guys can make a decision together, and then I'll stand by that. So if there is a different material, I'm happy to change it. I just want something that's secure, and I want to be able to keep it safe for the public, and also for our clients. I would ask, if that is the case. I mean, I think it's important to make sure that this isn't just one individual that has a problem with this. It's more of a public opinion, because it's hard to make everybody happy with some of these things. What might look good to somebody might not look good to somebody else. So we might have to just make a decision here on what we all think is going to be the best for the city and the least, intrusive. But I stand by whatever you guys say, and I'll be happy to do whatever the board recommends. I really do value you guys, so thank you. I'm available for any questions too, if you guys have any for me.
I would like to thank you for actually coming back in on a reconsideration of a previously discussed matter. Mr. Vonich, what's the next step at this point?
Well, Mr. Chair, if you wanted to do something more affirmative, you could ask for a motion to reaffirm your previous action. Or if there is a motion from any of the members to basically deny the design that is in place with the lattice work. So you have a choice of two motions, I believe.
Okay. And I have one more question before we do that. Dr. Robson, you had mentioned some potential for putting additional landscaping in there between the trees, obviously. Have you moved forward with any consideration of design on that?
No, we haven't. I know Jess, my office manager, reached out to Joe. I believe she did, but we haven't done that yet. So there hasn't been any, there's no harm, no foul. If you guys want me to do something different, I'm happy to do that. But, to me, that seemed like a very acceptable option, just because I think it would buffer the fence from the road. But I haven't, there hasn't been any expense that I've incurred.
Okay. Thank you. So really, Mr. Vonich, as I see it, there's three options. One is to suggest a continued path forward with landscape. One is to suggest a revisitation of the material. And one is to go forward as we had with the existing material in place. Is that correct?
I think the first and third options are the same, because part of the original action in September was to require landscaping along the fencing.
Ms. Clark.
I have, thank you, Chair. I have a question. The section in that ordinance about not having a dog run at all there, am I reading that incorrectly, Mr. Runich?
No, ma'am, I think the regulation is quite clear in the site-specific ordinance, but the Department of Planning has always interpreted those as structures. Outdoor kennel areas and dog runs typically have some type of fencing associated with them, and they're specific to their purpose. In this particular instance, this used to be the turnout area for the horses. And from the perspective of the department, and in this case, the interpretation of the director, this is not a violation.
Then I'm going to make a motion to move forward on the path that we were originally, considering landscaping and leaving the lattice fence in place. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? That'll be aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Chair, could we do a roll call?
Yes, you can.
Thank you.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Member McCown Foster,
Approve.
Acting Chair Ritter,
Approve.
Member Hafner,
Approve.
Alternate Welker,
Approve.
Alternate Bartlesmeyer,
Approve.
and Alternate Marion.
Approve.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in, Dr. Robson.
Thank you, guys.
Mr. Vonich, I believe the next item on the agenda is Prime Place.
Yes, Mr. Chair. And before I begin, at least in terms of attendees, we do not have anybody representing the Prime Place. And so I guess I'll defer to you as the board. Do you want to proceed with the presentation and discussion, or how would you like to handle this?
Did they send material for review?
Yes, they did, and that was in your packet of information.
Okay. I do not have that in front of me. Is it something you can show on the screen, Mr. Vonich?
I believe Ms. Keefe has probably steps ahead of me on that and has done the share screen previously. And so with the permission of the chair, I'll just say that, as you know, at the September meeting and from the minutes that were just approved from that particular session, the board approved the elevations of the 5-story building. As part of that approval, there was a request that the petitioner, in this case, the developer of the site, return and provide architectural renderings of the trash enclosure, the generator enclosure, and then the carports or parking shelters. And all three of those have been provided, and if I'll be quiet, I'm sure Ms. Keefe will share the screen and you can see them.
Okay, so this is just an aerial of the Prime Place, and I am just going to, because we reviewed these last month, I'm just going to go straight to our new elevations. And so these are the elevations for the generator enclosure.
Can you break this?
And this is the trash enclosure. And here is the freestanding carport. I suppose, do we want to ask questions in terms of materials, or do you want me to go through the materials as well?
Excuse me. I just made a phone call to Mr. Kennedy. He's going to try and jump in. Robin, could you email him the Zoom link so Mr. Kennedy can participate?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So again, Mr. Chair, as we wait, we have the trash enclosure, which is located in the southernmost end of the site. We have the generator enclosure, which is in close proximity to the residential building, I believe for building code purposes. And then obviously there's covered parking, what I would consider inside the building, but as part of the refinement of the plan, they did add this carport structure out in the back parking area to address what I see as probably a need of the residents.
I didn't recall the plan and seeing if there were any bollards around some of these items.
I think Ms. Keefe is going back. And Mr. Chair and members of the board, at least on the west side of the carport structure, I think it's protected by the generator enclosure more so than anything. And then on the east side, that which is closest to Eastgate Lane, there is a small parking island there that will have a raised curb and landscaping associated with it.
I guess my concern for that is that we're doing a veneer brick enclosures, and they are not particularly durable in relationship to a car. I'm just a little concerned about that.
Well, certainly when Mr. Kennedy gets online, we can further define that. Certainly, I'm sure Mr. Kennedy and others appreciate your patience.
Robin, did you send the Zoom link to M. Kennedy at KAI? Can't find it in his inbox. He has all your answers. KAI, say it again, Mike. Hyphen, yeah. Dot KAI.
Okay, so give that to me again.
Right.
M.
Kennedy at KAI-DB.com.
That is what I have on both of the emails I've sent this week. It could be going to spam.
Check your junk mail. Check your junk marking. Robin, is it coming from you, correct?
That's correct.
Yep.
I can try another email address if that would work.
I also sent or I should say I forwarded the email for tonight's meeting as well to the address I have. So hopefully one of them will get to Mr. Kennedy.
I just forwarded Robin yours to Michael, so hopefully he'll get that.
Mr. Chair, I believe Mr. Kennedy should be coming in shortly.
Fabulous.
Mr. Chair, we have Mr. Kennedy on screen, but he's muted and not visible.
How was that?
We can hear you. That's good.
There we go. I got a picture of me, I think, right above Robin's head. Okay, what can I do for you guys? How can I help?
We were having some discussions about the generator enclosure, the trash enclosure, and the
Yep.
covered parking. And I had a
Yep.
concern related to is it veneer brick or brick veneer on those two enclosures?
No, those are complete bricks. Those are conventional 4x8 bricks.
Okay, which is a lot better, but I'm still concerned you might want to have some bollards out in front of some of those elements
Well,
that we didn't see on plan.
that may be a good question. I don't know why they're not there. I think that's a good recommendation. I have to check the details to see if they're supposed to be there, but they may not have drawn them in for what they were presenting to ARB or the planning and zoning. Just because they're thinking, well, they want to see the architectural elements. They don't want to see
Sure,
I
I completely understand.
okay. What else?
Mr. Cohen,
Okay, I don't know if I'm getting out of line here, but I know very clearly that we discussed and that there will be bollards both inside the trash enclosure so that the dumpsters don't bang against the rear of it, as well as bollards on the outside to protect the doors from flying away.
That's
He's
good.
got a better memory than I have. Yeah.
The only other question that I had is, are those flat top capstones or is there some slope to them?
I'm pretty sure there's some slope to them at that scale. I've seen the slope on the capstones for the knee walls, like around the
patio area?
garden wall, around the patio areas.
Sure.
So yeah, it's got a slight camphor on it, not a lot, just enough to get the water off. And somebody asked me last meeting how high those walls were, and I told them they were about 7 or 8 feet. It looks like they're at least at the generator, they're 9 feet high. And going back to the trash enclosure, it's 8 feet 4 inches. So you got the detailed answers to that question too.
Healthy walls, yes. Very nice. I don't have any additional questions. Alex?
Yeah, I had some questions or more statements on just looking at the designs. biggest actually applying to the generator enclosure, just with its proximity to not only the freestanding carport, but also the building itself. In my opinion, it feels that it would be a good idea to add that masonry wainscot to match both the house, or not the house, sorry, match both the main building as well as the carport. I don't feel it's as needed on the trash enclosure, just that it's so far away from the building and being inherently dealing with trash. I don't feel like a lighter color is probably the best idea near there where it's going to definitely probably getting dirty. So, you know, my opinion, adding that masonry veneer wainscot to the generators would help tie it back into those two elements it's next to.
Let me look.
Sense.
I am I'm scurrying for a rendering. I don't have one in my hand. The wainscot serves a purpose. I'm trying to, I can't remember everything. I'm sorry. So I got to look at a picture to get a feel for where I am on that side of the building. Here we go. It is, as I agree with you, it is extremely close, because right across from that is the, I'm going to call it the east elevation of that wing, which I'm trying to find a look at. You know, there is a little bit of that. Let's see what that line's up. You see how the, if you're looking at this site plan that's on your screen right now, there's on this, what I'm calling the east elevation there, is at that carport right across from the generators is the east elevation. And on that east elevation, there's a bump out, and all of that bump out is the white colored ephes wall. And then there's a little piece just beyond the dumpsters, the generators, that is brick all the way down to the ground with the wainscot, as you pointed out. So, it would relate to one or the other, and that would be okay with me. I don't have a problem with that. However, as you can see, if I can get this up in there, can you see that elevation? That's sort of the canopy, and you can see how the, does that work? Am I working holding that up like that? Can you see the wainscot underneath that glass? Uh-oh, you guys disappeared. Oh,
Yeah, but we see what you're holding up.
yeah, somebody, my picture moved. I'm trying to get it. Let me get it on a larger screen. Okay. Now everybody can see how that, right next to it is a garden wall. And I think the garden wall is about 4.5, something around 4 or 5 feet high. I think it should be 5 feet. So that wainscot's about 3-4 feet up. And, that's the difference between it looking like that or not. Now, I don't know who was asking the question. But does that bother you with that knee wall?
No, that doesn't bother me at all.
Well, I'm trying to decide myself.
I think what Alex was commenting upon,
Pardon me?
I think what Alex was commenting upon was
Alex. Oh, where is
was-
Alex?
give him a wave, Alex.
Oh, there he is. Thank you. Okay, thanks. Go ahead. Who was speaking?
Alex, you were talking about how that relates to the building adjacent to it. If I recall, looking at the east elevation, it is a full masonry wall, not with any string courses or wainscots or anything else, if I saw the elevations correct.
On the, you mean at that east elevation? I don't have one.
I was gonna say around the corner from that south entryway.
Yeah, I'm looking. Let me see if I just don't have a full set of drawings here with me.
Well, I think that Robin had that up for a moment, didn't she?
I've got an elevation of it here in my hand. No, it's got a wainscot on my elevation that I'm looking at here. And if I got one in this thing, the ARB plan should have that elevation as well, and it'll show
Sorry, can I please ask you to repeat what elevation you're looking for?
I believe it's the east elevation.
It depends on what they called it. And the south elevation, east. Yes, it's the east elevation. But it's the east elevation, and there's a wainscot all the way across that thing. So, I mean, if you'd like it, do you want it on just one side of the generator enclosure?
Actually, the generator enclosure, isn't it adjacent to those three bottom windows in the masonry wall up to the first floor height?
Yes.
Okay, so the wall is actually all masonry up to, what is that, 12 feet or 13 feet at that point? And it's up against the 9-foot height of the wall surrounding the generator, which is all brick. I think it's a perfect match. I'm not sure I'd change it.
Okay.
Alex, do you agree or not?
My reference was more on if we're looking at the same brick material on the building, it has a wainscot in all situations. And with that same color and material being that close to the building, and also with the carport having what appears to be a matching wainscot on their piers, that adding a wainscot to the generator would probably tie it back into the building better. So, but like I said, that's my opinion. So,
Anybody else want to voice an opinion on this?
I would agree with Alex. I think if the brick material was similar to the left-hand brick that's on the east elevation shown, it would be more consistent. But because it is the darker brick, the vocabulary should remain the same.
That makes sense.
I think it's a matter of taste, and I don't object to either one. So you guys will have to decide what you'd like to see, and we'll do it as long as you vote to approve it today.
Well, if there's no other opinions to be offered forward, shall we have a discussion or a vote or a motion?
So, Mr. Chair, if I could summarize, the bollards, according to Mr. Cohn, are part and parcel of both the trash enclosure and generator enclosure. And other than Mr. Bartlesmeyer's comment about the brick veneer wainscoting, there were no other items that the members identified to be part of a motion with condition. Have I summarized correctly?
Yes.
Are there any other questions of Mr. Kennedy regarding the three items under review tonight?
No, not that I know of. Shall we have a motion to accept it with a wainscot around those items? That generator structure? Does anybody, go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve with the conditional change of adding the wainscot around the generator enclosure.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Robin, do you want to do a roll call or a voice vote?
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, let's just do a roll call vote. I know it takes a bit of extra time, but it's easier for us, I think.
Great.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Member McCown Foster,
Approve.
Acting Chair Ritter,
Approve.
Member Hafner,
Approve.
Alternate Welker,
Approve.
Alternate Bartlesmeyer,
Approve.
and Alternate Marion.
Approve.
All right, motion passes.
Fabulous. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy, for coming by.
Thank you
On
for
such short
calling
notice.
me. Thank you very much. Appreciate it, all of you. We'll see you at the ribbon cutting.
Look forward to it.
All right. Good day. Good evening.
Mr. Ivanovich, is there anything else on tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair. As you know, we've kind of been acting, you've been the acting chair as secretary for a number of meetings now. And we do have an election process that's behind schedule. So both Ms. Keefe and I provided you the information regarding the eligible members for the officer positions, and they are all the regular members. In this case, Ms. McGowan Foster, Mr. Sine, Ms. Loja, Mr. Ritter, and now Ms. Hafner. So if there would like to be a discussion about the officer positions of chair, vice chair, and secretary, we could have that now. If someone would like to volunteer for one or more of the positions, we could do that as well. Or
Can
if
we
you'd like to-
nominate an abstention? No, I don't think that's fair.
Or if you prefer to think about it, we can do it next month at our regularly scheduled meeting.
Is there somebody who would like to nominate or volunteer for any of the positions? We're a real group of volunteer people.
I'll just say, as an alternate, I'm not available, but it's not as scary as a job as it appears to be. So don't be worried about doing the job.
Well, Mr. Chair, since no one's ready to proceed, we'll continue to have this on the agenda. And if you all could think about it over the next month, we'd sure appreciate it. So we can either remove the acting chair title from Mr. Ritter or add it to one of your names. So thank you.
I take it that will draw the meeting to a close. Thank you all and have a good evening.
Oh, Mr. Chair, we need a motion to adjourn with second and then a voice vote.
I'll
make a
motion to,
You
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Alex. I'll make a
make-
motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all very much and have a great weekend.
And a good Halloween. Safe.
Bye.
Good night.